Hello everybody, welcome back to Homestead Living Alaska. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas. We had a great Christmas. It went by really fast. And we are excited for the new year coming up. We're already talking about plans for 2025 for the homestead and projects we want to get done, and maybe even getting some hogs for meat. So lots to still figure out, but it's exciting that it's going to be 2025 soon and it's the start of a new year. So in this video, it's going to be a great video. You will actually learn a couple of things. The first thing you're going to learn will be how to operate a two-man crosscut saw, which is kind of an old-fashioned saw, without a motor and without the need for gas. All right, the second thing you're going to learn how to do will be how to bake bread without using an oven. Now, you will still need to utilize a wood stove. So I'm going to teach you how to do that on this video. The third thing you're going to learn will be the difference between the Shelterlogic and the Costco Carport. And Lily and I will be doing a detailed review of those two structures. We have had many requests for that specific video, so that will be on today's video. All right, so let's get started. All right, guys, we are down here by the Shelterlogic and by the Costco Carport. I'm going to be trying to review them for you as requested. You know, where if you had a certain amount of money and you wanted to know which one was better for your needs, hopefully I can help you solve that problem. So let's start with the Shelterlogic. So the dimensions of the Shelterlogic right here are a 13 by 20. The time it takes to probably put one of these up would be, 4 to 8 hours, depending on how many people you have setting it up. Now the cost of one of these here will probably range between $700 to $1,000, depending on where you purchase it from. And what we also did on the very bottom of the Shelterlogic is we did flatten it out and put a layer of gravel underneath before we even set this up, which really helps with moisture dripping from the top of it and just kind of gives it a nice base. Now, one of the things I do like about the Shelterlogic is the height. It is way taller than the Carport. So there's the Shelterlogic there and the Carport. So what Lily and I are going to do next is we're going to measure just how high that Shelterlogic is and just how high the Carport is. All right, so Lily and I just did some rough estimates there, and what we came up with on the Shelterlogic is about 11.5 feet to the peak of the structure. So we're measuring this at 8 feet, just about 9 feet tall on the Carport. Good job, Lily. All right, and one of the things that Lily and I were saying that we liked on the Shelterlogic is kind of the angle of the structure on the top. So if you do live where there is snow, it is better at self-sloughing, let's call it, than the Carport here. When the snow comes on the Carport there, it will actually just kind of pool in between the metal bracing, and it will not ever go off by itself. So definitely like the pitch of the Shelterlogic a little bit better if you do have snow. Now, another thing is we do clean our structures off when it snows. If you do not, they will collapse. So normally when it gets to about 6 to 8 inches, we will be out here cleaning the snow off. All right, and one of the most important differences here that I can think of is that the bracing on this Shelterlogic is metal, which holds up a lot better if you have snow coming on the top or if you have wind starting to happen. All right, so Lily's going to try and measure here how far apart the braces are from each other in the Shelterlogic. Okay, and we've got approximately, we'll go 4 feet. So approximately you'll get 4 feet between the span of the metal bracing in the Shelterlogic. Another perk of the Shelterlogic, the bigger one, is you have storage space up top here. So if you want to, put your fishing nets, fishing poles, extra lumber like we have, there is extra room up top here, kind of like a loft. And I do love that feature. You just kind of go up and it gives you even more. So that is a great feature. All right, so next we're going to head into the Costco carport and show you what this looks like inside. Come on in when you want there, Lily. All right, so one of the features that we do not like is it has plastic joints where everything kind of meets up. And this joint here, this joint bracing, is not as strong as the Shelterlogic because it is plastic. If you live where there's a lot of wind or snow, this is definitely something to think about. I don't think they always had the plastic. They did change this recently, and we definitely are not a fan. That right there has caused us some problems when the wind comes. All right, now what Lily's going to do here, we're going to measure how far apart the metal braces are, just so you guys can know. So I'll hold it right here, and then you tell me how many feet, Lily.
80 inches.
Okay, about 80 inches. Okay, so it's around 80 inches, almost 7 feet between the metal poles here in the carport. And then looking at it from the inside, you know, as you guys can see, it only goes up so high, so you do not have that extra storage there like in the other structure. And between the bays here, let's call them, because the metal is wider, the snow will pool way easier, and these will actually just start bowing down when the snow comes on it. So again, these do not slough the snow off, and they have the plastic joints. So again, if you live in a sunny place that's warm and you don't have to deal with wind and snow, this would probably be perfect for you. But here we really have to watch these. Oh, this here is one feature that we do like that the Shelterlogic does not have, and this has a little window. So you can roll this up. In the summertime, it has some mesh here, which is really nice for airflow and just to get more light inside of the structure. So I do like that it has that.
I can't really roll it up.
That's okay. Don't worry about rolling it up. You can flap it back down. And this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, let's call them windows, that you can lift up, and you get a wonderful amount of airflow in here and light. So I do like that about this structure.
Oh.
All right, so the cost of the Costco carport was about $288. We did purchase these from the Anchorage Costco on DeBar. And Lily found one other feature that she likes on this that the Shelterlogic does not have. It actually has this little pop-out bar where you can actually, elevate this up, and it's kind of like a little awning, more in the summertime here, not in the wintertime. So it's kind of sealed down by snow right there. But that is kind of a cool feature for even more airflow and light. Okay, so next let's talk about the thickness factor of the canvas on each. Okay, the Costco carport definitely has thinner canvas, okay, than the Shelterlogic. And one thing I wanted to point out too is when your carport is closed, right, if you get a bunch of frost here on your zipper, you cannot open your carport. I don't know if it does it on the Shelterlogic too, but we've gone out here many times, and basically it's kind of sealed up with ice, and you cannot unzip your carport. So something else to know about. So let's go over to the Shelterlogic here. All right, so we're over at the Shelterlogic. It's definitely thicker material. Okay, you've got, a nice thick here where it zips up on the outside. Nice zipper, and I don't think this freezes up like the carports do. I'm not sure why, but I don't remember there being really a problem here. Overall, this is definitely a tougher structure than the carport, probably reflecting, in the price point. I literally have nothing bad to say about the Shelterlogic. I think it's made really, really well. I don't know if they have changed anything in the last couple of years, but I have nothing bad to say about this Shelterlogic. I do have a few complaints about the carport. One would be the plastic joints where they kind of connect up, and then second would be how the snow pools in the middle. If you don't catch it really, if we're sleeping and you get a foot of snow, it may collapse on you overnight, or at least this one here will slough. So, all right, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed our review of our two structures. Everybody has different opinions. Those are just kind of our opinions because these two structures here go through the ringer in Alaska winter. So, all right, let's hop into now learning about the crosscut saw. The two-man crosscut saw was known by the Romans, but not till the middle of the 15th century did the tool come into fairly common use in Europe. Records exist of the crosscut being used for cutting logs in the United States between 1635 and 1681. In about 1880, Pennsylvania lumbermen began felling trees with the crosscut. Before that, all the trees had been axe felled and crosscut into the lengths.
When it drops, it's gonna drop right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna pinch this back there.
No, it won't.
Good job, guys.
We don't have a way to get it out. Wedges.
Watch your feet, Harley, if it rolls
Wedges.
towards you.
Why are you like this?
Why do you pinch on?
Because that's my desert hole.
Oh, wait, that's the point. Towards you when it goes. Well, maybe. Right. Look,
Nice job, guys.
Nice, right?
Beautiful. Get that teamwork.
Yeah. Good job.
Woo!
Good job. Good workout.
Yeah.
Good job.
Oh, yeah. So the oil helps? Can I get that wedge?
Yeah.
The oil helps?
Yeah. very fun time.
You want that one? We'll do it, man.
All right, and so you can see here we are still actively milling our birch siding for the inside of our cabin. We probably have a total of around 80 boards milled out so far that still need to be ran through the router and then put up in our cabin. So we are making great progress on this project.
He won't go anywhere. Come on, Mark.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Back. It hurt a little bit though.
All right, now we are making our way into the cabin here, and I will be showing you guys how to make this homemade bread on top of the wood stove. All right, so first you're going to start with a packet of yeast. And 1 packet of yeast is 2 1/4 teaspoon. And you can use any kind of yeast you want. I usually just use the active dry yeast, the Red Star. Then I'm going to add about 2 cups or 2 1/4 cups of warm water. You don't want this scorching hot because it will affect your yeast. And I'm just going to stir this in here. I usually will put my finger in the water, and if it's, you know, like a nice warm temperature, I know it's going to be fine for the yeast. So that's what we do. Then what I'm going to do is add about a tablespoon of some olive oil. I add about a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to mix this up a little bit here. And then I add about a 1/4 cup of sugar. And I'm using the organic sugar. All right, next we're going to be adding our flour, and I use the organic flour. We usually get at Costco or Three Bears if you guys watch our shopping channel. There's 2 cups. And if you haven't checked out our shopping channel, it's Shopping in Alaska, and I'll leave a link to that channel in today's video. Kind of a fun channel. We go shop places, we go exploring, find unique shops and see what they've got. Okay, I'm going to be adding 2 more cups of flour, so now I am at a total of 4 cups. Keep stirring that in. So I'm going to put in probably 1 more cup, and this will be a total of 5 cups for this recipe. Now at this point, I'm just going to let this dough rise for about 20 minutes. I'm going to put it by the fireplace. Just going to pat it down, and then we'll knead it with our hands after it rises up. So I'm just going to be covering this up here, and we'll place this right by the fireplace, not on it. That would be too hot, just right by it to give it a little warm. All right, then the next thing I do while the bread is rising is I make sure I've got a fairly hot fire. I have these used oven gloves on because they get really used. What I'm going to do next is put 2 of these fire bricks in the fireplace. You definitely want some gloves on here. We just want those fire bricks to get nice and hot. They're going to help cook the top of the bread when we cook it on top here. So I'm going to let those get nice and hot for about 5-10 minutes. All right, guys, so the bricks are ready to pull out here. So if you ever do it this way, where you're just going to be cooking on top of your wood stove, you're going to use some fire bricks. If you do heat them up in the wood stove, you want to be very careful. They're very, very hot, and they will stay hot for a long time. So I'm going to carefully pull these out. We're just going to place them on top of the wood stove here. I was surprised that these bricks stay hot for a long, long, long time. So I'm going to shut the fire back down. I will probably add a piece of wood. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a piece of wood. I'm going to get it pretty hot in here, so it is cooking pretty hot from the bottom, and then we're going to put these bricks on the top. So all right, and because we cook everything on cast iron, I am going to put a little olive oil first before I do the bread in here, and just kind of spread that around. It just helps, the oil just helps prevent the bread from sticking to the bottom, of the cast iron. All right. So once I get my oil in the pan, now the bread is ready to be put into the pan. But first, we are going to knead the bread up a little bit and then transfer it here. All right, so we're going to start mixing this in here. And I did a little research on how long humans have been cooking with fire. And, you know, and every website says different things, but it's anywhere from 300,000 years ago to 800,000 years ago, somewhere in there. So cooking with fire is something that we've been doing for many, many, many years. So in our family, we like to just kind of keep that tradition alive and know how to cook with fire. It's not always the fastest way, but we feel like for us, it's the healthiest way. We don't have, you know, natural gas where we live because we're so detached from the road system, and actually a lot of Alaska does not have natural gas options. We don't like using propane because it does stink, and it can get pretty expensive if you're baking and cooking all the time. And we don't like the fumes that come off of propane, honestly. So we feel like for us, the healthiest thing is to cook with fire. And then in the summertime, I'm hoping our family can build some sort of an outdoor kitchen so we can keep cooking with fire. All right, so this is looking real good here. So now what we're going to do is transfer this to the cast iron. All right, there we go. All right, so next what I'm going to do is move these bricks here that are really hot. I'm going to put the bread on top of the wood stove here. Now I'm going to put another Lodge cast iron pan on top of the bottom one to kind of simulate a Dutch oven, because this is what I have. Then the most important part is putting your bricks on top, and this gives the top of the bread that heat, kind of like an oven. Okay, so now what I've got is heat on top, heat on the bottom. We're going to let this bake. We'll let it bake for about 10-20 minutes, and then I'm going to check it. All right, everybody, it's been about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. First, you're going to take off the bricks here. Be sure you have your mittens on, because they are still extremely hot. So let's take a look how this looks. All right, so it didn't rise as much as I thought this time, but if you guys bake bread, you'll know, every loaf is different. So that's okay. What I'm going to do is I take my spatula and I'm actually going to flip this over. And we're going to let it go on the other side a bit more. I'm going to put this back on and let that probably cook for another 10 minutes. All right, so let's take a look here. All right, so it's looking pretty good. Last night's bread rose a little bit more than this, but like I said, every time it can come out a little different. So, all right, so let's take a look how this looks when we cut into it. All right, so let's take a look here. Not too bad for bread on. Not too bad for bread on top of the stove. So that's how I do it, guys. That's how we make our bread. That's how we cook. Yay, my family's clapping.
Good job, Mom.
So hopefully you guys learned something new. You do not need an oven. There's other ways to do it. And we're excited to show you how to do it. All right, everybody, we want to thank you for joining us on this video and have a safe New Year's, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Take care, guys.